Yeah. Well, everybody, welcome to a new episode of Living the Dream. Whatever you have lost your dream, crushed your dreams, you are up to start dream again. This is the place for you to be and listen to this voice of hope. And today you're going to meet a very, very good man. He's actually from UK, but he been sent as a missionary to Zurich. Who wouldn't live in Zurich? And I tell you, Tom Lancaster, before we go into this, that hundreds of the most rich people in Norway are moving to your area. So that I think it's prophetic that you have started a church in Zurich and taking care of all the Norwegian Norwegian people that have left Norway because of the tax system in Norway. They are rich, they are wealthy, and they are longing for purpose in life. So, welcome, Tom Lancaster. Present yourself.
Thank you so much. I look forward to welcoming all the Norwegians in Zurich. They can bring some of their Norwegian cheese over.
We
Hey,
will.
it's great to be with you, my friend. Thank you for putting the time aside and the honor of just spending some minutes with you discussing dreams and what it means to have a dream, and especially a God dream.
That's too true. So, you're a church planter. Tell us briefly about the church plant, but also you're a web designer. Is that true?
Yes, yeah. I run a branding agency,
Okay.
working in branding and web development and content creation. And we started a church. We started a church just over 7 months ago, but we've been in the city here for 5 years. So for 5 years, we've been, I would say, working on the dream, to use that language. And in the last 7 months, we've been seeing the fruit of that. We launched at the end of March, and have been having a lot of fun since.
Yeah, that's amazing. I met you in Florence. I think it's up to when you have a release of the church this year, and I was really touched and impressed about your passion, but also your personality type. That don't, you're not the hype, you're not very charismatic and so on, but you are very laying down the foundation brick by brick, and you're a family man. You running your own business, but you also living for a purpose that are higher than yourself. In this case, means actually that you are a church planter, which I love 100%. Tell us a little bit, Tom, about you and your wife's drive. Why are you doing what you are doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's the core. The drive is the core of why we're doing it. And we're driven, I would say, we've always been driven by a sense of service to others, a sense of hospitality, whether that's been a few friends over for dinner and making them feel as welcome as possible, making them feel seen and known and loved, asking the right questions, having great conversations. I think we found ourselves doing that since early on in our marriage. Our home was always filled with people, and we felt like we were always doing our best to just to provide a space where people could feel like they were part of family. You know, we got married. We were in a city that was a student city, so we'd have a lot of students coming in that were away from home and away from family. So we felt, I think, a responsibility to create a sense of home for people and a sense of family. Has always been our driver. So we were in the church I was previously a part of. We were leading small groups, leading our young adults ministry, part of the pastoral care team. I was an associate pastor there. And one of the things that we found at the core of everything we did that we loved the most, that we felt like we got the most fruit from, was having people in our home, sitting around the table with them, and just, you know, we were young, so we weren't old enough to be their parents, but playing a role of maybe uncle, maybe aunt, maybe big brother, away from family. And that's been our driver. You know, I felt from a young age, God placed a dream in my heart to plant a church one day, and spent many years trying to figure out what that would look like. But at the core of it, I think, was a driver that I learned at home and that my wife learned at home. Those environments that we grew up in, environments where we always had people moving into our house, sleeping on our sofa for a weekend. So it became a core part, I think, of both of us. And when we met, we realized this was probably the thing that we unified around the most, was we both had a desire to serve people, to create space and environments where people could thrive. And the best place we felt like you could do that was in a place that felt like home and a place that felt like family.
That is brilliant. According to especially in the Western world, where the concept of family is kind of loosening up. People are feeling lonely, and especially maybe in Zurich, which are a student city. There's a lot of young adults. It's a kind of global small village,
Yeah.
which are fantastic. But tell me about when you are moving from the drive, and
Mm.
you're there as a pastor and a leader, and when your church is becoming a little bit bigger, how make sure that this value, because this is a value that you is the foundation of the church,
Yeah.
how can how you can make you sure that the value of the drive is on level 2 or 3 or 4?
That's a good question. And I think to say, just as a preface too, I think for me, even if I wasn't doing this, if for some reason tomorrow we stopped doing everything with the church, I have no plan to, but if that was the case, I think I would find myself still doing this. I'd still have people in my home. I'd still be meeting people for coffee, sitting for an hour and asking people what makes you you, what drives you, what's at the core of your life. So I think it's so much a part of me that what I've seen with our church is in a very individualized city, a student city, a fast-paced city, a wealthy city where people are working hard. It has become very individualized, which is true globally. I think specifically in Zurich, what we've created has felt to people like a cup of cold water on a hot day. It's felt like a bit of an oasis, like, oh, that's what it feels like to be seen, to be known, for someone to take their time to understand you, to ask questions. And what we've found is because people have experienced that, they're starting to replicate that. So that's happened naturally to some degree. Now, one of the things that we're faced with is as the church grows, which it is doing, we now have to be intentional to make sure that it isn't just us and the core that are feeling that, but that we spread out and we stretch out and we make sure that everybody has that experience. That looks at the moment like really specific conversations around culture, training, constant language around what it looks like to make someone feel at home. We speak quite intently about people being shepherds, not people being leaders, because leaders can get stuff done, but a shepherd can really speak to the heart of a person and meet a person and raise a person. And it's not that a leader can't do that, but I think the language sometimes confuses. So we're using biblical language, shepherd, because I feel like there's so many metaphors biblically that when we use that language, it does something in our mind to go, oh yeah, that's how Jesus was. Now, if we're a leader, I think we can easily just build things, get things done, and we can say, well, I'm being a good leader. And it's true, you are. But I don't want us to forget what it feels like and looks like to shepherd people and to carry the heart like David did of looking after people. And that we need that in churches. We need that in businesses. We need that in government. We need that in society. We need it in schools. We need that in our communities. So the church is one place for us to build that. But we also need people to go out in business and do it there too.
So this is very interesting, actually. If I'm trying to understand where you're coming from when you're using the term, or if you understand me right, the concept of shepherd and not a leader, and because I'm very focused on raising a leadership generation. Without the leaders, you can actually do nothing. You can manage and you can contain with the spirit and also the action of a shepherd. But tell me a little bit, but because I'm following you 100%, but it's very interesting. You as a young church planter using kind of changing the metaphor of from leadership to pastorship or yeah. Say something about that.
Yeah, I think it's nuanced and it's language. And I have, I have no issue with leadership. And I think we need leadership. And there is an element of shepherding that is leadership. But I think for us in using the language, we automatically frame what I want from people, what our culture needs to this sense of care and nurture and guidance. And it's spiritual. And, Paul wrote to Timothy and said, you've got many teachers, but what you need is fathers. And I think, again, it's language, because a father can teach
Mm.
in the spirit, a shepherd can lead. But when Paul was writing to Timothy, I think he was speaking to a felt need at that time in the people, that there are people around you that don't just need you to teach on a Sunday, but need you to father them. And I think it's the same for us. We do need leaders, but we don't just need leaders. We need shepherds. We need people to really make sure that there is a sense of nurture and guidance from people as spiritual oversight in our lives.
And this is probably one of the things that I love with a new church plant. Because when you have a new church plant, a new dream, a new season, you can redesign and you can do the framework and the language and the culture that are more suitable and serving in the local context that you are serving. So I love this, and I think the challenge for us that are 2,000 years, that we are too old to change. But this is also I want to have this podcast also to give the voice to the old, to the young, to the up and coming next generation, because this is the beauty of the change that we need to be a part of, every one of us. But tell us a little bit more, Tom. What is the most blessed experience you have had so far according to the church plant?
Well, first of all, I think I want to say, I think you've modeled leadership so well, and you've modeled building something so well, and giving a voice to younger people already in your life. In the time I've known you, I think you've done a fantastic job of doing that. You have a heritage and a legacy behind you of doing that, and to be a part of you continuing to do that too is a gift. And I think we're learning, younger guys like us, 40, but still considering myself younger on the younger. We none of us do this without the cloud of witnesses around us and behind us that push us forward and help us. So while we're creating new language in some ways, or emphasizing, I should say, even old language, I never want, and I would say this to young people too, there's a danger in isolating. I'm going to do something different on my own that's completely new, like nothing else before. That sounds fantastic, but take some people with you. Don't forget that went before you, that have laid their lives down to build something and emphasize something that we can all learn from. And I'm doing my best to learn not just from what's happening now, but what has happened. So we've all that to say, I think, in the last 7 months, the thing that has been such a blessing to me has been the stories of people. Stuff that I think, maybe God would have found another way to reach these people, of course, but for some reason, God chose our setting, our context, our relationships to change lives, like to really dramatically shift people's trajectory. Whether it is someone that was bordering on being a single mom who, whose husband had moved out for a moment and then ended up moving back in, and, the family got back together, to people that were involved in very liberal and left field kind of politics and everything come with that at the time. Even, seeking advice and wisdom from mediums, to finding Jesus, finding hope, people being set free from addictions, from having to smoke weed every night, to the replacement. Now, one friend of mine has been telling me his story. He used to smoke weed every night. His replacement for weed now every night to give him peace is reading the Bible.
Yeah, hallelujah.
Just miraculous stories like that. You've seen that. For me, like, I'm reminded of them constantly. I'm looking out on Sunday, looking at the lives and the stories and what God has done. We have people in our church that have never been to church before, that came to our church at the launch for the first time, and bought a Bible. They're trying to figure it out. They're reading scripture. They're sitting on Tuesday morning in our offices, reading the Bible together, trying to figure it out. There's something about your church growing and working that is great. But the only reason it's great is because when you look out, you hear and see and connect with and get to listen to stories of people that, it makes everything worth it. And I think when, I'll say this and then I'll hand it back to you. But when we talk about dreams, to have a dream is a difficult thing
Mm,
because there's the gap between having the dream and seeing it come into reality.
true.
And that gap, the cognitive dissonance that you feel when what you hope will happen is not yet happening,
Mm,
and you're holding on to the hope that it will happen at some point. The moment it does happen and you start seeing lives changed, it
mm,
makes years and years of painful dissonance between yourself and the dream coming to pass worth it. And it's like it's healing to the pain that you might feel from a dream being laid down or a dream not coming to pass.
mm.
The moment you see a hint of what God can do through your life with a dream coming to pass, it is like it just makes everything worth it. It's
Exactly.
energizing.
And I resonate so much with you with what you're telling us right now, Tom. Is the beauty of people's life being changed,
Mm.
because that is actually in the end of the day, that's the purpose of everything that we should do as ministers. But also when the dream you have actually have not only influence on your own life, your own finances, your own family, but the purpose is to make other people's life blessed, good, and prosperous. That is fantastic. But I don't want to leave you right there, because each and one of us knows that, like you said, there is a gap between from vision to reality.
Mm.
What have been the worst for you? Don't expose us for bad things, but in general, what have been the worst for you as a church planter the last 6 to 7 months?
Well, I think this is a good thing to talk about because with every dream comes opposition.
Mm,
And opposition, I found, sits neatly between opportunity and outcome.
mm,
You get an opportunity to dream, to go for something. The pathway to that outcome is opposition.
mm,
And I think it's naive of us to think that you're not going to face any opposition,
mm.
that you're not going to face any resistance. The resistance is the pathway to you actually getting to live in your purpose. So I think at a young age, I didn't understand that. And it's hard to explain that because it's very different to experience it. Um, I would say in the last 7 months, the worst or the difficult thing has been maybe just the weight that comes with that responsibility
Mm,
of people's lives. It is not just. I think from the outside it looks like okay, you're putting on an event, you're a public speaker at an event, but it's not. As you know, as many other pastors and even leaders in business, people that are responsible for others,
mm,
fathers, even,
mm,
someone in government that has got a team, whatever it may be, you carry the responsibility of other people's well being.
mm,
Uh, Now, I know I'm not solely responsible. I know that God is solely responsible. But I think a good king is very aware of the well being and health of
mm,
the citizens of his nation. And I
mm,
think the same is true in any position of leadership or shepherdship.
uh-huh,
Um, the challenge is you don't just carry your weight, you carry the weight of others because you care for them. It is like a parental role. You think about your children, you're concerned about them constantly. And I think, the more people get added to what we do, the more weight there is, the more it keeps me up at night thinking about are people feeling welcome?
mm.
Do people have a home? Are people being hurt by this experience? Are we able to heal people that have already been hurt? So I think it's not the worst, but it is a weight and a responsibility that I gladly take. But it is, I think, something to carry that we don't speak a lot about.
Mm.
It is the pressure and weight of leadership, shepherdship, taking responsibility for yourself and the dream that God has given you.
It's so true. This about the weight, that is a positive way to talk about the pain,
Mm.
because there is a pain in carry things, carry people, carry the dream. Actually, there is a pain in that. So, in my
Yeah.
next book, it's called A Resilient Lifestyle. I'm talking about a chapter with leadership pain, because I think, like you said, that is it's under communicated about the weight, about the pain, because some people, I cannot bear this. It's too much for me. And when you come to that point, you need to be aware of if you cannot handle the pain on this level, you cannot go to the next level. And that is actually a podcast for tomorrow. But but there is something wisdom in what you are pointing out there, which are very good. Before I let you go, Tom, if you met a person today that was up to take a U-turn in just going with the flow, or taking the U-turn and going back to the dream and the destiny and purpose that is over his or her life, what would that be?
That's a good question. It's a point that a lot of people find themselves at. And I've had those moments, those potential U-turn moments where I've thought, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Yeah. Maybe I'll go back to something else. First of all, I'd say don't give up early. Don't quit early. Don't quit based on emotion. Emotions are both manipulative and can be manipulated. Sometimes you got to work your emotions, and not let them work you. So I would say don't make a quick decision. I think the advice I could give and would give would be one of measured wisdom. Would be take some time, genuinely consider. I don't want to just say just go for the dream. I would say take time, because you've got to have a conviction that what you're pursuing is what you're supposed to be pursuing. If you don't have that conviction, you're going to get 10 years down the line, something else is going to come up and you're going to go, maybe I'll go back. You're going to get 5 months down the line. You've got to have a solid conviction. And I think one thing that God has done in my life is he has, through time, by not giving me something too early, developed a conviction that I think has created a stickability and a faithfulness that I'm just like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. So much, even at this point, if it doesn't work out, if it fails, the actual core of my calling is, for me, it's irrevocable. Like I said, we don't lead this church. I'll be sat in a coffee shop every other day, meeting with people, shepherding. I'll be doing over coffee, asking them about the dream. Is there a business on your heart? Whatever it may be. Because there is a conviction that has happened through time where God has been allowed to embed it into my life. So I would say any dream you're going to pursue, do it from a conviction that God has given you that thing and called you to it, and that there's nothing else you're supposed to be doing with your life than that. Get to that point, because that's going to sustain you.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Tom, for your time and for your insight of living the dream. And I would recommend all our listeners to actually share this, because this is a podcast full of wisdom from a young man that have experienced so much so far. So thank you, Tom, for being a part of this. And also to all our listeners, I just want to say thank you. I get the numbers to this morning, according to the podcast. It's going so well, and it's such an inspiring for me to have that kind of measurement that it's going well, it's taking ground, and so on. So if you want to share it, if you want to give a feedback, please do that. And if you have someone that you want to have, do you think it's good for the podcast also to have a talk to, please give a feedback. I don't promise that I will respond on everything, but I will definitely read it in Jesus' name. Amen. So, Tom, thank you for your time. God bless you in what you are doing in the family and in the ministry of Zurich. And take care of all the rich Norwegian people that are coming along your side of you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Adios, amigo.
Ciao.